this is, it kind of leads us on again into the next question. Like, what I was going to say was, how have you been able to maintain a career in music? But for this story that you're telling us here, we've saw quite clearly when you first performed, how it started to help you, and how you've been able to maintain. So if you can tell us a wee bit more about, like, your week-to-week gigs and stuff, like how have you been able to make it a job?
Maintaining, making it a job. It's just like anything. You've got to do an apprenticeship.
Totally.
You're either going to get roped into a band and somebody else is organising where you're playing, what you're doing, how you're getting there, or you're going to start it up yourself. And I got in with a bunch of guys. Doken McMillan was the main guy behind it. The Free Candy Sessions in Glasgow, and I got in with them. I played a couple of gigs for them, and they were needing a hand hosting a couple of events. And before you know it, I'd an offer of an open mic somewhere, I can't remember where, man, and I had to get a sound system, so I borrowed a bit of money. I think I borrowed money, I can't remember who I borrowed money off of. One of my brothers or something. I borrowed money off them to buy a speaker system,
right,
which I've still got. You know, I paid a Mackey's and
the first PA, brilliant.
I've still got it. I've got a huge one now. It's the same stuff, but it's all the bigger stuff. And you know, after that open mic ran a few weeks, I'd paid that money back.
Aye.
And I realised, well, this is doable.
Aye, there's more to it than just like.
This can work. So making a wee bit of money. I mean, for years I was working in a place called Lennon 1906, which is still putting music on. That was like the pub across the road from where I lived, in Shawlands. And I was sick of coming home in the piss and rain with my guitar on my shoulder on my bike for the West End in the Merchant City in the city centre.
So you start asking close by, you know what I mean?
So I just every day geese a gig.
Aye, mate. Honestly, the pub owners about here, they'll be whenever every time they get an email from me or a phone call, they must be like, here we go again. Do you know?
So a long time. I mean, I'll tell you no lies, man. A long time I was scraping by, you know, pinching stuff out of supermarkets and getting by on fucking beans and toast, but built up a reputation for myself, being a fairly straight up guy and putting gigs on, always making sure it's fun. The whole idea of it was to be fun. I didn't really care about the money.
Totally.
I just wanted to make sure I was having fun, and as you know, if an entertainer's on stage having a lot of fun, the audience picks up on that.
Totally, you can feel it.
I think that's how it's happened. But like honestly, 7 years I think I did working for that one pub. This is when Shawlands was a totally dead area that didn't have much of a scene, and it's now jumping. You know, it's got a huge team.
I think the first time, like I seen, there's a guy, Mick Hargan. Do you know?
Yeah.
I don't know him well, right? But I caught a few of his videos on that, and I just loved his attitude. And then it turns out that he does a night in that Corona.
He does a Sunday afternoon there now.
Is it the afternoon he does as well? And I remember just thinking to myself, look, obviously, I don't know that many folk from in Glasgow directly. Like, we're like 14 miles outside it, you know, what it's like being outside the city, right? But you've been there first, right? So I don't know how many folk. But see, when it was really nice for me to see, look, yourself, Mick, a lot of different people that are actually got a real consistent career in music going in Glasgow at this level. Do you know? Like, no, you don't have to be a millionaire rock star. Do you know what I mean? There doesn't have to be like this level of fame. It's like the first level of musical success comes through when you can make it your job. And for me, it was lovely to see that's actually alive and well in Glasgow and the surrounding areas right now.
Pay the bills with it.
Totally, mate. Like, and because my problem with Glasgow's always been like, people will pay you in Glasgow definitely, but they don't really want to pay you if they don't know you. Do you know what I'm saying? And they don't know if you're going to. And in a lot of ways, I completely agree with it, because they don't know if you're going to bring a crowd. They don't know if you're going to even be able to do a set. Do you know what I mean? And
again, it's like an apprenticeship.
Totally,
you know?
totally.
And there's all these grassroots. I mean, I love the grassroots level. I love that lower level where the young ones are coming up, and the more experienced ones that the kids have moved out or something, they're writing songs, putting bands together. I love that kind of thing, and that's just part of the apprenticeship. So the venues above me, the promoters, one or two steps up the ladder from me, are looking down and watching the likes of me and Mick Hargan and one or two others. But you know, if you can string stuff together, I mean, I started teaching one of my mates' little brothers back in 2002 or something. just after the bang in the head, he was like, get yourself something to do. Wee brothers,
totally,
guitar lessons. And that spawned into something, working with the Northern Rocks Festival group in 2004, I think that started. And that was like, they were putting on music sessions for disadvantaged areas.
Yep.
So community centres all across the north and east of Glasgow. And that was Hugh Reid, Hugh Reid.
Aye, for college. Aye.
That was him. He was behind that company.
Aye.
And I realised then, I think
I remember them, man. I've never seen them before. But
still going,
did they have somebody with a toilet seat? I fucking do remember that. No way.
Hugh Reid, he's still going. He lived out in China for a bunch of years.
Wow,
and
man,
he's back
that's amazing to hear. Like, that was one of the most kind of unique acts I'd seen about, man. Totally
off their heads, man. Totally off their heads. But I got a lot of inspiration from some people I was just lucky to bump into.
Yeah, man.
And there's another fella, Carl Bridgman. Carl Bridgman. He lives down Ayrshire right now, and me and him bumped into each other.
I actually do have him on social media, mate. Man. But I don't know him personally. I'm not sure where I've ended up with him. But
what a skill this guy is. He's like a one-man band. He's got all these pedals at his feet for the drum kit, and his guitar and bass, man, and harmonica, and then he sings on top as if he's just clicking his fingers.
Yes, love it, man. Brilliant.
I remember
I recognise his name totally. I think I've heard any of his stuff, but I'll give that a listen, man.
He said to me years ago, what is professional? What is a professional musician? You don't need to be a superstar. You don't need to be drove about in a limo. You don't need to be playing massive concerts. It's if you can make a living from what you're doing, that's you a professional.
Aye, that's it, mate. And it was a huge realisation for me, that as well, because I had so much baggage attached to what it meant to be a successful musician and what it meant to be a professional, and it was a big thing for me as well. I'm assuming that's where we're going there, that he helps you realise that that's really true, man, and I really agree with that as well, mate. That's brilliant, man.
Once that's set in, for any young musicians that might be listening, I mean, once that sets in, once you realise you don't need to chase the fame, I think studying the music industry actually helped me realise that. Yeah, the music industry's vicious. It's really vicious. And the ones that are making the music are the last ones paid. Totally. And the minute I realised that, I was like, well, fuck that.
Totally.
I'm not interested. And in fact, it was one of my lecturers at college. I think it was, it might have been Pete Damra or Morph, or one of these guys, Ted McKenna or somebody, and they said, look, instead of chasing...
Morph with the curly hair.
Aye.
Wow, man, I've not thought about that guy for years, man.
Instead of trying to chase a record deal with somebody and trying to become a pop star, why don't you just stick with the grassroots level? Why don't you start something in your own local area and build something organic? There's two ways of approaching that industry. You've either got loads of money and loads of experience, and that's a scientific way. You'll see what way the genres are going, what way the popular music scene's going,
the trends are,
and you'll map out. You'll think, well, maybe in the next couple of years it'll be a kind of Britney Spears thing we're looking for, or maybe it'll be a 5-piece boy band, or maybe a heavy metal band, and then you plough loads of money into it and get songwriters and all that team put together, and that's boom or bust. Yeah. Or you can go the other route and start something local, organic, and let it slow grow. Something that you're getting paid to start doing, or you're certainly, it's not costing you anything at the start. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't need big money or experience behind you. You just need a passion for it, and that's what the route I went. I've done organic growth. Totally, man. And I must say, mate, I've done the same thing. Like, it's nice hearing it verbalised this way as well, because it's nice to hear that somebody else is thinking about it in that way, mate. Do you know what I mean? Because that's what I've done too. Like, I definitely was concerned that if you're no super successful, then you've failed in that, and that was the kind of mentality I had for years. Well, it's stamped into us for years. I suppose, mate. It's not like I've just taken that off the wind, mate. I suppose stamped into us for years. You're meant to have a proper job. You're meant to pay proper bills, and you're meant to pay the tax man and all the rest of it. It's stamped into us for years. I blame Thatcher for that, man. We'll not go into that. We can go into that if you want, mate. We'll talk about it in here, man. That's it. No, and I get where you're coming from, mate. Like, I was so thoroughly underwhelmed with the possibility of being a successful musician, right? Whatever that might mean, that I just didn't even believe it was possible. So, but I knew that when I went and played gigs, and when I said I was a musician, and when I practiced instruments and learned songs, I knew I was doing something. It felt right. It felt right. Do you know what I mean? But it just never, even when I talk, like, you tell your parents that, you tell your mum that, what you want to do, and they're like, oh, come on, you, what are you talking about? Get a job in the bass, get a trade, get this, get that. Like, I was told that over and over.
You'll never, and it's no. I don't blame them for thinking that way. Do you know what I mean? But after the moment of clarity I had living abroad, working as a musician, 95, or not even 95. Like on weekends, I would be busking for 10 until 6 in the city, and then I'd be busking for 6 until 1 in the morning, and outside all the pubs and that. And when you're doing that for a year straight, man, the practice that you get and the level of understanding of music, it all coalesced to show me that this was actually real. It wasn't a figment of my imagination, do you know? Like I find it hard to describe it sometimes, mate, but I know like you understand that moment of clarity that I'm talking about, you know, because it was crucial. And when you have a bad gig back in the day, it was like, oh no, this is torture, what am I going to do? But now when you have a bad gig, it's like,
it's all right.
It's all right. It's like
there's ups and downs.
There's ups and downs. There's your ebb and flow, and it's all good. You know what I mean? And that level of reassurance came for the moment of clarity when I understood that music as a profession was possible, mate. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, man.